Hello, thank you everybody for joining today. For those of you in the room, this is obviously a bit weird because we've been watching a 5-minute countdown while all seated waiting for the 5-minute countdown to finish. For those of you joining us online, the 5-minute countdown is for you. So we're coming to you live from the Adaptivist office in London today, and we're going to be talking about assets data management today, which should be very, very cool. So let's dig into it. We have an awesome speaker in the form of Sylvia. Sylvia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Nice to meet you for those that I haven't talked yet, right? So who here can guess where I'm from originally? You cannot tell.
I have inside information.
I can talk a little bit more, so you can kind of... Argentina.
Argentina. It's a good
No
guess.
hablo español. Yeah. It's interesting because I always get like, oh, you're from Persia, right? Like, no, I'm from Brazil. Yeah, so Brazilian living in America and working IT for ages, like not like, to recent like these startups. I worked like for years and years, and that has been a fun ride to see all the transformations. So have been in infrastructure operations, also moved to application development, and then moved to plan portfolio management. Now I have the whole portfolio in my head in how to develop applications. I tell sometimes people, you know what, like I cannot sometimes figure out a freaking app in my phone, but I know what goes behind, right? Mm-hmm. And then for curiosity, I think the most complex product that I managed was performance. Performance all around application, how to manage performance and make performance faster. But I have been at Atlassian for 8 months now, working with JSM and focus on the asset and configuration management database, and just start even to working in new other tools as well at Atlassian. I work as a technical product marketing, and we are like we work very together with the product management team. So they take care of like the research and development engineering, and you take care of everything like outbound, everything that goes out, launch, and customers, community, material that you guys receive, everything is our responsibility. That's it.
Thank you. Well, it's really good to have you here with us today. Thank you for making the effort to literally cross the world to be with us.
Yeah, that's pretty fun.
It's great to have you with us. We're going to just do a few introductions to me and a few others. By day, I'm Director of Products at a company called SweatUp. We're a dashboarding and data visualization tool, but I'm an Atlassian community leader, which is why I'm standing here doing this. But it's not me by myself doing this. There's a team of us. There's also Stuart Cable, who's just there. Did I update your job title? Yes, I did. So you're an Agile Delivery Manager now at Cutover, just down the road, also an Atlassian Community Manager. We have Jay, who's just over at the back there, who's a Service Desk Manager for Calibrate Consulting. And finally, we have Arsia, who is not here tonight, but Arsia is our fourth member, essentially, who helps with all the bits and bobs that go into ordering the beer and the pizza and making sure we've got a venue and all the usual bits and pieces. That's who we are. Today, Sylvia is going to be giving out $25 gift cards throughout the day, and that's open to those of you online as well as those of you in the room. She has 3 of them to give out, so please do engage online if you use the comments and chat functionality. I can see your comments, so yeah, pay attention because money is at stake. And if you do win, come and see me after. I'll get your details so we can send you the information. All right, a quick look at the agenda. It's not really super formal, to be honest. We have one session today only, which is Sylvia's session, which is all around asset and data management in JSM, which will be an interesting topic for me personally. My background is in sort of ServiceNow and the CMDB there, but in JSM, it's an entirely new world to me. So I'm learning as well today, which will be very cool. Then we have gift card giveaway throughout and at the end, I believe. Followed by only something for in-person attendees. Obviously, beer and pizza is quite hard to do remotely, so beer and pizza at the end. So that's what's on offer today. So obviously, we are the London Atlassian community. If you give this QR code a scan, this will take you to our LinkedIn page, where you can follow us, where we post everything that's going on, from new events to updates on what's going on, essentially. So please do give us a follow. It helps us with live streaming as well, with promoting the stream. So it'd be much appreciated if you were to give us a scan. This QR code will be around at the end as well, so don't feel you have to get it now. But that would be much appreciated. So without further ado, really, I'm going to bring on Sylvia. So thank you for joining us. I'll hand over to you. Yep. And I'll put you on stage when you've done so.
Yeah, so we're just going to go as this data manager, right? So how many of you guys heard about us as data manager? Have you been part of the EAP so far? No? Daniel, yes? One point that you might want to charge. So many applications do you have? I mean, how many applications do you think? But now I'm going to allow you to get your phone. And you know what? How many applications do you really have? And beyond data manager, I'm going to teach you or coach you how to find that out in your phone, okay? So Android, follow that. For, Apple, go there, go settings, go general, get your phone, and let me know how many applications do you really have.
230.
Huh? 230. How many do you think that you have before? Not far. Okay, 200 to 30 is okay. How about you guys?
45.
145.
45.
Okay.
125.
125. Who got closed?
151 for 150.
Oh yeah, that's pretty close. Did someone got close?
I got 53. 53?
53. Very close.
And
So
he gets a 50, then it's a 46.
3, and then you guys are competing, huh? Okay, so anyone more close? And who was the very different, very surprised? You were surprised how high was? How was? See, yep. It's interesting, right? Because, we never stop to think about that. But I think that, how about there? Did people answer?
Do you have some answers?
Yeah.
So we've got some answers from online. So
Put them up on screen one by one. We've got a 99 here.
Wow.
We've got 106. We've got 118.
We got people surprised there too.
And the
And
biggest one I'd say is this, 173. I'm on 188, which is higher than I was expecting myself. Quite a few people. It's funny, there's an app for everything, it turns out.
right? So I think we have 2 kind of winners. Maybe I have to find another gift card.
Ooh, there we go.
Right?
So the highest online is 204. Oh no, sorry, is 311.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Yeah.
So I think we have a winner.
We have a winner, right? So think about this. There's a question. Do you need all these apps?
No.
Definitely not, right? And then, are you sure that all these apps are secure?
I'm sure they're not all secure.
I can see like everyone like start to blush, right? I mean, my heart like, ooh, are you paying for a subscription that you don't even know about it? Do you even know how to see what you're paying for? I have to go to my bank statement every month and take a look because I go like just sign up for stuff and then your private settings, right? So where am I going with this all like questions? Private settings, do you have it all, do you know everything that you sign up in these agreements for apps?
I read them in detail, obviously not.
Nobody takes
Nobody
care
does.
of this, right? And then of course we are like, oh yeah, I need more capacity, I need more cloud space, etc. So I think that you got the point here, right? Because by the end of the day, right, that's the problem with enterprise, with any company size, pretty much that. Like you have no control, you have no idea what you have no idea if your assets are being secure or not, you have no idea what you're paying for. And that's the problem with every single company, right? As much as you have your asset management and configuration management database, I'm sure you are missing something here, okay? So, and then the cool news here is like, is that data manager comes and helps you, because by the end of the day, we have so much distributed infrastructure everywhere, right? We have like so many types of assets. It's impossible to control everything because you don't have control. Like last week, we have a major airline in Dallas shut down for 40 minutes because of a change. You don't know what's going to be affected, right? Because it is so distributed right now, right? And also all these SaaS solutions, how to control everything, right? It's crazy. When I think about everything, it's like, yeah, data is everywhere, right? And then it's not easy. I have been doing asset management, configuration management database since it was like, 20 years ago. And when first time that I saw Discovery tool with all this mapping, I was like, man, this is so cool. I can see all this mapping, I can see all this application, how everything is connected, databases, services, etc. And then it's like, oh, it's repeating all this information again and again and again, because everything connects to everything and some things start being repeatable. And then how to clean that data, right? So nowadays you have Microsoft Azure, you have your cloud, Google Cloud, you have AWS, you have your SAP systems, right? So it's not easy, and it's also hard to avoid the garbage. And then, of course, garbage in, garbage out, okay? So those are the challenges that everyone faces. Is that right?
Yeah.
Are you guys feeling? I feel the pain too. So that's what we help. So we simplify with Data Manager this integration, bring the data from multiple data sources. It's not just about the integration, but bring this data together and cleaning that data, doing some reconciliation and normalization, and then you have the data to optimize your processes. The cool thing about Data Manager is all the information that you get, and then the analysis that you can do on top of that before sending this data to your configuration management database and assets to be using incidents, change, problem, etc. Right? Make sense so far? Okay. So how it works? So we do have the integration tools to bring different types of data. We have some adapters. We call adapters for those people that work with integration platform, we call connectors, right? But it's the same thing. We have client to basically execute some jobs and bring this data in. We configure the jobs, bring this data in, and then we have all this automation that we do, data cleansing, normalization, and reconciliation. Then what we say is you have the complete, current, and correct data. So with that data, you can make data-driven decisions, okay, about I'm gonna show some kind of cool charts that's gonna help you to answer those questions. Are you secure enough? Do you have some vulnerabilities on your data or in your environment? And are you paying too much or are you not like covering for all your assets, right? So all that information can be available. So any questions so far in what that does? Okay, can I start asking questions? How about there?
None so far.
Online
None so far.
questions? No?
Lots of
Easy,
engagement in the
right?
in the accounts question from the beginning, but nothing worth passing on.
Okay, so now let's jump to the fun part. Okay, I'm going to show Assets Data Manager in action. So the first part that I want to show you is the data manager itself, and later I'm going to talk a little bit about the configuration. So within the Jira platform, you go to Assets, and then Assets in Configuration Management. You go here in Data Manager, and then you have your environment. So I'm going to show basically, as I go through the configuration, I'm going to show two environments with you. One is what's available right now, and then we have this product as a beta version available for everyone. So how many of you guys have accessed at least Data Manager so far?
I played.
Oh, just 3 of you guys. 4 or 5. Okay, better. There?
None online. Well, I've given it a go.
Okay.
Lots
So
of questions.
you have access. So I would say not tonight. Okay, I'm going to forgive you for not doing this tonight. But tomorrow morning, go ahead and turn on your Data Manager and start playing with, okay? So here's Data Manager. I have this Getting Start option where we have like all these steps to show you how to configure, okay? Because you have a lot of, I would say, steps or points to consider when you are configuring, but once you configure that, you probably don't need to touch unless something in terms of configuration change. You can automate, I would say, majority of the whole processes. So here is Getting Started with all the steps that you need to follow. And then we are going to jump right into the dashboard. So the dashboard is a very cool feature where you can create your own dashboards about your assets. And initially it's just asset data, but in the future, you might be able to bring any other type of data, and then you can do any analysis that you want. So I have like these dashboards that can be available for different types of users or areas. And the cool part here is like I create this executive dashboard, right? Fully customizable and very simple. Don't need to like even NoSQL or anything like that to configure. I'm going to show you. So and here is like showing that I brought data from different data sources, like Microsoft SCCM, Active Directory, antivirus, my CMDB itself. So I can bring data from the JSM, Active Directory again. So, and then you see that there is different numbers of data from different data sources. And some of them should be similar, right? So my consolidation and reconciliation brought me the total of 32,000 records. And the cool thing is that here, right here, I can see like there is items that are not mapped with anything. I can see like some compute issues. I can see numbers with no, like right away, I can spot already some discrepancies between the data sources, okay? So then the next step here is just a very simple type of chart where I can see my computers per platform. As you can see here, like Unix, Linux, etc., and Windows. And then here it starts to be more cool because I have these Venn diagrams where I show like the quantity of the assets, like Windows servers per type of data source. So I would say that I have just 900 records that are common in these 3 data sources. And I can see here that I have like 68 records that are only on my SCCM. So I can drill down right here, see what records are those, right? And maybe take some action, because if these records are in not other systems, maybe I have some issues. And then I'm gonna also point that out. Like this next one that I'm gonna show, I can see here that I have 81% of my servers, Windows servers, that are in my SCCM, but you know what? 19% is not in the antivirus system. So in my whole number of assets that I have in my SCCM, I have 20% that doesn't have antivirus. So I can pinpoint right away some vulnerabilities for security. Totally like out of the box that you can think about in a tool that do integration. You can do this type of analysis. It's cool, right?
Nice.
So navigating down, and then again, if I need to take an action, I can just see what records are. I can export this data here. I can send over even to a JSM, assets, schemas, and then also have some notification for some persons, some people that are responsible for that, and take some actions. And in the future, you're going to also not only have notifications, but you can also do some automation. So basically, install antivirus in these machines, right? Without a person doing, and getting compliance and reduce the risk. Okay, that's pretty cool. Okay, let's come back here. And then I'm going to show you another cool thing about the software. You see that sometimes when you bring data, you have several types of, categories. Like, let's say I have here several types of operational systems, like Windows 7, Windows 7 Enterprise, XP, several versions, Windows 7 professional version. So you see that I have tons of little details, and I don't need that. So that's where we normalize. And here in Data Manager, we call compute dictionaries. So I create tables saying everything that's Windows 7, something else, put as Windows 7. And then I have a more clear view in this side here, like normalized. So I have like Windows or Windows Server or Windows Desktop. So I can kind of group that little detail in a more like reasonable way for me to read and take some decisions. So I need to replace all these types of, I would say, operational systems, old operational systems, bundle here, get all this information, again, do some automation and send to procurement and update the windows, right? Make sense? Are you guys with me so far? Good. There, any questions so far?
So how do you achieve setting those categories there? Is it through AI, or are there anything that helps you to do that?
Yeah, for now, we have tables, predefined tables, and basically like we call compute dictionaries. So I have like a table inside of the data manager that maps like, let's say, all these details, Windows versions, or other operational systems, and mapping to what I want. So you can even configure and create some new tables, right? And then let's say I get the data, it maps with my, let's say, first column in my table. This is internally, you can not see, but that's what process happens. And then it translates and create another column in my table, another attribute in my table saying what's the new category. And you can do this for any type of field or attribute. Makes sense? And I'm going to show a little bit later how that's done, okay?
Sorry, I have a question as well.
Yeah.
Who can actually drill down into that information?
Yeah.
Do you need a license to do that?
No. Oh, well,
Or is it
let me tell
specific
something.
individuals?
You need a JSM license, right? But we don't have any limitation in terms of data. But I would say whoever you set up for visualization, there is like 4 types of permissions. So administration, configuration, view, and view data, view dashboard. So if you give just few permissions, those people can see. But you're right, they need the JSM license for now.
Thank you.
But in assets, we might have a limitation, but in terms of the numbers, 50,000 records now, right, with the new price. But for data manager, we don't have that. So then, so this is interesting. I was talking, what's your name again? Sorry. Yeah, your name. David, yeah. So I was talking with Dave about the finance, right, aspects. And this is kind of interesting because sometimes you have tons of computers and finance doesn't have visibility, right? Procurement doesn't have visibility. So I can also do some mapping with like what I do have in IT, what I do have in my environment, engineering environment, and what's not in finance for this depreciation, for incentives. So I also can do this analysis comparing like with finance tools. I can also do some analysis here with some scanner or scan antivirus tools to see what the vulnerability in terms of like, oh, this machine has not been patched, actually, not virus, but has not been patched for some time. So I can also get that analysis. And then there is other types of analysis that you can do. But this, I would say the executive view is the one that I most like. So all these, I would say, dashboards are configurable, right? And then you can create your own views. And that you also can manage over time, right? Like what's the previous, you load again the data, what has been changed, and then your progress, saying how much issues I have been resolving with this new load of data, okay? So as we talk about the dashboards, I'm gonna jump and talk about like how we configure and how that works, okay? So questions so far? Any questions there?
There are some questions online. So if now's a good point, I'll bring some up.
Yes.
So the first one I think you answered, which is asset a premium plan feature?
Okay, so let me just close this screen here first and then go back to my, okay. Okay, so what's the question, sorry?
Is asset a premium plan feature is the first question.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is JSM premium.
Nice and easy to answer.
Premium or enterprise.
The next one is, all the assets that come in from other tools, are they also stored on the object schema, or are they just correlated to create the reporting? That's a good question.
They are stored in the object schema, if you want, of course, right? You define if you want, but yes, they are gonna be in the object schema. We have 5 objects, and again, you can actually define which data you want to go to the final schema.
That was going to be my question. Yeah. Often you've got the same object in multiple tools, and you want property A from over here, property B from over here. You want
exactly
to be able to pick and choose from all the various tools. Cool.
It's so flexible.
Let's see what else we've got. Here we go. Will Asset Data Manager have a native connector for Workday?
We don't have it right now, but it is in the plan.
In the plan. Very cool. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of
questions.
questions.
But if you don't have if the connectors that we don't have Workday, for example, you can do OGBC, SQL, directly SQL, and you can do also CSV and text file.
Yeah, you can get everything via CSV.
And of course, you don't have an open API. That's a question that always comes out, but we are working to have open API. I cannot wait for the open API.
Yeah, that's the other obvious sort of one. Next one then from Russell. In JSM assets, specifically services, there was a maximum number of inbound and outbound relationships per object. Is that still the case?
Yeah, it's still some of the case in terms of relationships, but I even mentioned to some people before we start, we are reworking the platform. We are changing the whole underneath platform to support even more records, support even more capabilities. So it's part of the future, I would say. Okay, roadmap.
Sounds good. Good question. Good answer too. Let's see. This has more.
I just want to go back about the services. We are integrating and creating even more, I would say, relationship with Compass. So for customers that use Compass and services in Compass, we have integration, and this integration is going to even be more like seamless in the near future.
Makes sense. That's always going to be the thing with a tool like this. Getting in data from all of your tools requires the ability to pull data from everywhere.
Nobody can even imagine the amount of change that goes into production every day. And then sometimes a simple Compass integration with the IT service management can help a lot, even if you have the issues, like what's going on, what's being changed, right? And then can help to avoid those risks or even to find troubleshoot faster.
Agreed, sounds good.
Right.
Next question, there are tons of them online, more than I was expecting. For view only, can JSW licensed users be able to see these dashboards? In other words, do you need a JSM premium license?
Yes, for now, yes. But that's a good feedback. I can definitely bring it back and discuss a little bit more, because you're right. Like if you want just to view dashboards, maybe we can, work something in the future.
Sounds good. Makes sense. Feedback.
I hope
is,
that we can also copy these questions, because we can use them.
Yeah. They're all posted to LinkedIn, so they'll be there forever.
No Bamboo HR for now.
Okay, no
I'm
Bamboo
familiar
HR.
with Bamboo, yes.
Cool, thank you. Let's keep going with the questions. I may pause and do
One
some more
more,
questions
yes.
later. Yeah. How will this work alongside vulnerability management tools like Tenable?
Good question. We integrate with Tenable.
Happy days.
We have adapter for that one. I mean, I need to see if that's released for beta, but I do have in my developed environment.
Makes sense. I'm going to pause on the questions there for now. There are more,
Yes.
so when you're ready, let me know.
Okay,
Bring
so
some
that
more
was
questions
fun. All right, any questions here, guys?
Do you automate, like you see, obviously you can have connectors. I can see you have connectors. You automating the input of them, or is it something you manually do?
Yes, no, you can automate the process. And there is just one part of the process that's not automated, and I'm going to jump right there and show you and talk about this, because that's a very good segue. Good question. So I'm going to stop in the demo, and I'm going to go back to the presentation here. And then I'm going to talk about how you configure. How do you get to that point that I show? So first I show like, okay, here's the cupcake with the sherry, right? Now let's see how we can make the cupcake work, right? Or the recipe. So the data manager flow, and I love this too, guys, because it's pretty cool the way that it works. So you have the external tools, your data sources. The first point is like, what data I want to bring, right? And you might also have discovery, but discover only, don't bring the data that you need for CMDB. You are expert, you work with ServiceNow, and tell me about, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, even the flag here said, no, I can't.
The issue isn't more data, it's data that's of a good quality. So being able to reconcile data from multiple sources is like the key.
Yes, it's not just one tool that's gonna bring your data. Period. You need to have and define what the data source that you need, okay? Then the second aspect is we do the integration. So you create a job, right? And then we have adapters, and then the adapters are basic connectors. I configure that connector, and then I run a job, I run a client, right? And then running this client, you run in your local machine. Can be a VM as well, can be a whatever, like a VM that you share with other software, etc. But you need to run that in a command line. We are moving this also to the platform because a lot of customers ask for. But actually, just coming back, Data Manager was an acquisition, was AirTrack, right? And then AirTrack was very open. That's why it's still like this client, but we are going to bring that over. But it's pretty simple to run that. And then you transform the data. You have the option, it's not mandatory. Let's say I want to transform a string to a date, or I want to transform maybe like a name of something to match something that I need. We have what we call transformation functions, okay? I'm gonna show that. You don't need to, but it's available. Then we move to the process. So it's the second process, to cleanse and reconcile. So it's basically when I'm gonna scrub the data. A lot of people sometimes do this type of capability or thing in Excel spreadsheet. And that's a lot of pain, I still smiles. I don't know if you have tried to clean up data using Excel spreadsheet. It's crazy. Or maybe like Microsoft Access with some SQL is not easy, right? So we have a possibility here to go and cleanse and reconcile. So for this, what I need to do here is basically, you see that I have this raw data from each one of these data sources. First, I map to my object, and then I have this process of cleansing. So what I do is, for each raw data, I map to my final object in Data Manager, and then I also do this process of cleansing. And cleansing means remove all the duplicates, remove duplicate key, primary key, remove like blank records that doesn't have primary key. We have functions for that. You can just leverage functions of the system. Okay, so there's many functions to clean the data. Then once you clean the data, you basically we run a process that called import. But this process is basically like reading data from just different data sources, from this raw data, and reconciling all this data in one repository. So let's say I find Windows version, blah, 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 series number, blah, blah, blah. In several software, they just like get one line in my final repository. Or even if they find in some of the data sources, they bring that over. And then there is some priorities because there is like data from multiple sources. You might have data in these multiple sources you can consolidate in one data repository. And then you can import this data, we call import to assets compute objects. So it's the assets objects, the schemas in assets, JSM, or you can create the dashboards. Okay, so 4 steps: integrate, cleanse and reconcile, import to JSM, assets, schemas, or even use the dashboards on Data Manager. Okay, questions?
There are tons online, but let's see if there's any questions in the room first. If not, I've got one of my own, which is, so at the point you've done cleanse and reconcile, is it possible to manually say, yes, these CIs look good, no, these CIs don't look good, or is it a case of what is the output of that process is automatically stored in your CMDB?
Yeah, there is some conditions that you can do, right? And then also once you have this, like, as I showed, 32,000 records, you can say, I don't want to send this 32,000. I want to send like maybe 20,000. That makes more sense. You do a search, a query, and that query is what goes to these schemas. So that's why I have like create search here under import, or create search here to do the dashboards, and then I can do the analysis.
Cool, makes sense. Cool.
Okay.
There are a bunch of questions online. Any from the room before I go to the online questions? No, all
I think
right.
we're good on time. So maybe 2-3 questions, and then we can go back to Data Manager and I can show how that works.
So this is a question I would never have even considered asking. How does asset help with audit? For example, ISO 27001.
Okay, so when you talk about any type of ISO, right, it's all about reporting, how you are in compliance. So there is compliance for, is your assets vulnerable with, like, let's say, they said audit vulnerable for patching. It's vulnerable for security. So that helps in terms of reporting. And then you can automate their reporting to, there is one more thing that I want to show. The reporting for auditors, and then also the reporting for people that are responsible to resolve those issues. So you can also do some automation. But something that I want to show quickly here, that was a good question. Come back here in the assets. So let's say I'm in my high velocity. I'm going to go to my data manager. Actually, I can even go here. And then I'm going to go, let's say that I'm here in my overview, executive. And whenever I'm here in my executive, I'm going to go to not in AV. So I'm looking at my data. And the cool thing is, like, whenever I click here, it's coming I have this snapshot that can also be information for my auditing. So this data is in AD,
Cool.
in SCCM, in my all data sources. And then if there is change, and then I mark this as a snapshot item, I'm going to have the history.
So if you have the same CI from multiple sources and there are 2 properties that contain different information, you can see that the 2 different sets of
You can
information.
do that, and you can say SCCM is my priority number 1.
Yeah,
If I
awesome.
find data in this other data source, that's okay, consider the SCCM.
Bin it. Yeah, sounds good to me. Cool.
You can prioritize it 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Okay? Not amazing. Guys, there's a ton, right? So let's see how this stuff works. Oops, I keep going to my Slack with Bruce here. Bruce, come on. So let's go here. And then let's now start to see the fun part. So I have like the getting started that I show. I show also the dashboard. There is the cleanse and import. But now I want to go to the first step, adapters. And I want to show how the integration is done. So as you can see here, these Oh, actually, let me show one thing before, okay? So if you don't see Data Manager in your machine, I'm gonna show you first how to set up. So go to Configuration, Assets Configuration, and then you go here, Data Manager Beta. You have this in your machine, in your instance, okay? And then there is this widget here, turn on Assets Data Manager, boom. If you turn on, you have Assets Data Manager in your instance, okay? So then here are the roles, Data Manager Admin, Data Manager Adapters, administration for the whole Data Manager, for the adapters portion, for the viewers, and editors for dashboards, okay? So you can jump to Data Manager through here, or you can go back here where I was before, and go here, and Data Manager is going to appear here. So the first time that you go there, you're not going to see Data Manager. You need to go to Configuration and then Data Manager. Okay, got it? So you turn on, and then we go to Adapters. That's where I was before. And then here are the configuration, the adapters that we have out of the box. Okay, so as you can see here, Microsoft Azure. I have Entra ID, Entra User, LensWeeper, ServiceNow is no, right? And then also I want to show you here, this is my dev environment, and I'm gonna go here in my data manager, and I'm gonna go to adapters, and then you can see that we have quite more adapters that are being tested, okay? So Tenable, Flexera, Red Cloud, there's a couple of more. Up2 for finance, there is also, see here, Intune, right? Mentioned, so Dynatrace, there is a lot more tools right here, okay? So we are in test. The beta version has the ones that I mentioned to you right here, okay? So as you can see here, I also can do flat files. I can bring data also from the schema itself and SQL or ODBC, okay? Very straightforward. So what I need to do, so if I go to a flat file, I just need to configure how my GSM is going to talk to that CSV file, or how my GSM is going to talk to that particular software that I want to integrate. So let's say if I want to do a LensWeeper, I just need the token, right? Source name and then source type. If I want to do API, I need the API token. Simple, okay? And then I run a client outside. If you guys want, I can show you later, right? So it don't take too much time. But I can run this command line, and then once I run this command line, it's basically I'm executing the configuration job with this configuration, and then it's making a connection between the both environments and bringing that data inside of Data Manager, okay? So if I see here, my job execution, have several jobs that I execute, some failed, some was okay, right? How many time, how many records, and then my recent jobs here. And I can see here my raw data, okay? So this is the data that came from CMDB. I like always to show my SCCM, right, data. See, that was the data that was intake. So these processes to run, you configure once, and then later on, you can use a scheduler, right, in your OS, either in the Mac environment, the Windows environment. You run this command line through a script, and that's automated. Okay, so you don't need to, you can say run once a day, runs once every 12 hours, right? And then this process get the data inside of Data Manager. Simple, right? Simple. So I would say that the run command line, sometimes people that are not familiar, like, right? But I have very good details in how to do it. Then once this is step number one, okay? One more thing that I want to show you is, let me open here all my jobs. These are flat files. These are LensWeeper. This is my Tenable. So when I go to my LensWeeper, for example, right, I have like, this is my name of my configuration, my object class. This means like where this data is going to go. Actually, I cannot change it right now because I already put that in. But the compute is where the LensWeeper are going to bring the data in. The data source type, data source name, I'm using API, I put the token, and that's it. Once I bring the data, I can use some transformation. Remember that I mentioned I can add a differentiation between a date, I can also replace something with null if I want to mask some data. I want to replace a string. I want to also change a string field to convert to a date time. So once I put anything like this, I say which field I want to do. Like if I go to here and get like let's sing, for example, and the date format that I want and save. So I can change the format of a field if I need to. Okay, so that's the transformation. It's optional. Once you configure, it's going to be there. You don't need to go back there. So number one, done. Now number two, we're going to go back to the data manager, and then I'm going to do a cleanse and import. Okay, so I'm going to talk about all these processes here. So remember that I have my raw data, and now I need to map that raw data with my object. So I'm going to click here in my SCM, this ellipsis here, and then I'm going to go to mapping. And then Data Manager automatically map my data source with my object. If if the attribute has the same name in both places, I can see here it's mapped automatically. If not, sometimes you might find like, okay, you might find here like create new or ignore. So if I want to create new, I can create an attribute right out of the box right here. So let's say I'm bringing some data from external data source, and I want to create that data, that attribute in my object. I can just create on the fly. Or if I want to ignore some of the data in my object, I can also click on ignore here. Okay, but if I have the same column name and attribute name and type, actually, the mapping is automatically. Okay, so and then what Data Manager brings from Landsweeper, for example, or for using APIs. So you can go to the documentation, and those attributes are there. So we have a list of attributes, default attributes that we bring. Okay, and then as you can see, you can set up what's the primary key for each one of the jobs that you're bringing. So here's the mapping. So once you validate that mapping, right, then the next step is cleanse. So I can go here, cleanse. Oh, actually, let me just show one thing first. My cleaning rules. So this is where I mentioned about the functions to clean the data. So this SSCM is removing all the null data or primary key. I'm also filtering for records that has like a null of just some data, dates, fields, or also I'm gonna force some cleaning for duplicates primary keys. And then as you can see here, I have tons of other functions to clean the data, okay? So you can use those out of the box and use to clean your data. So once I add these cleansing rules, and I can put this as out of the box as well, like set up for everyone, every file, so I don't need to set up for each one of those. I go ahead and then execute my cleanse. So I'm not gonna click start here because if I click start, it's gonna be processing. But as you can see here, I did a cleaning. And then here, 59 records were like eliminated. There was none, but this was eliminated. If you go down in another one and then cleanse, you can see that there is even more here. Like 1,800 type of records was filtered. And then here, additional 155 and 8 records. Imagine like doing this on Excel spreadsheet, a lot of work, right? And then another aspect that you can do here is just like click, select all of them, and then say clean select. And then the system are gonna clean everything, okay? I know that there is always a question, can I automate this process? The answer is yes.
Predicting.
I always get that one. Yes, you can also automate. We have actually a client for import, we call data importer client that you execute as you execute also the data importer for the job. I mean the job run, the adapter for the job run. So you can also create a scheduler and then run both processes at the same time. One process to bring the data, another process to execute all this that I show you. As I mentioned, the first step of configuration is a little bit of work. Not gonna lie, right? Takes a little bit of time to plan, to bring the data, configure the system. Once you're done, easy, okay? So then once you go to the cleans, there is also another aspect that is now the cool part that is we call import select. This import select is the reconciliation, okay? So that's when I can get several data sources, like I can say, all this data source, import select. And then as you can see here, this is the last time that I did, right? So do some validation, do some preparation my object, copy data from different data sources, right? Align the primary keys. Also, compute dictionaries is where I'm running my normalization. And then post-import, close out this, I would say, processes, finalize, and then I have my final object reconcile. Okay, so once you set what you need or what you want, basically you can automate those processes and have your object with the data. So the end results of all this is basically my analysis. Here's my object. I have 32K type of records. And then there is all my data, 32 records. We're gonna show how to make searches here. You don't need to have any type of SQL knowledge. You can just say, I want all my records that is in SCCM and all my records that are not in my antivirus. And search. Boom, I already have my list of all the records that are in my SCCM and records that are not in my antivirus. And then you can add some additional conditions here. You can also add a new group of conditions. So basically I filter, and then under my filter, I do another filter, do another filter, and then select the data and work with the data as you want. Once you create this data, there is an option here that's save as a new search, okay? So once you save this search, this results is the data that's gonna go to the schema.
Cool.
Make sense?
Makes sense. Is there a JQL-like version of this? Rather than building out the search criteria with drop
Oh, the JQL.
Yeah, it's a JQL-esque
No,
thing, okay.
no, there is not, because people complain that they don't like to choose JQL.
It's a mixed bag. It's one of those things, once you're used to it, I can see that.
It's simple, it's easier, but you know, I mean, if it has a need, we can always put in the backlog, but you know, for now, I'd say people like to search PUL. Or you can export the results, save as a file, and download this file, okay, and use also to import on the object. So we have a native importer, right, that brings the data on the schemas. That's not available on beta for now, right? It's gonna be in between this quarter, next quarter. We're supposed to release beginning of this year, but we changed some priorities in terms of performance. We are working more in performance in underlying platform to even make more enterprise. So the native importer is not available, but again, you can still export the current result and import into a schema, okay? So once you create that, as I mentioned, you can save this new search, and then that's where you go to dashboards. You can add quickly like some nice widget here or change the layout. And then if I go here, edit, right? Let me just go here, yeah. You can see here that the type of chart that I want, which object class I'm using, and then the search that I did, and the attribute that I want to show, and that's it. There we go. I create my chart. So even coming back here, it's kind of cool because you can do this right here too. I click in advanced search. I want to see all my SCCM records, and then I can just view as a chart. And then I want to see by operating systems. There you go. Very simple to create the charts, right? And the same thing, like once I save this type of search, I can use this search to create my dashboards. Does that make sense? So just to go back here in my presentation, let me just go back in this one here. So what I walk you through is like the data sources, right? And then the integration piece of that. Let me go back here. Oops. the integration piece, then create and reconcile, import to, and then optimize with the dashboards. So that's what I walk you through. So with that, Data Manager helps a lot. I mean, I would say to, solve those issues for large enterprise when you have problems with vulnerability, you have problems in where is my data or what data is correct data or complete data, and then helps to optimize not just the asset management, but also to troubleshoot better incidents, prevent and manage risks for change management, and also root cause analysis for problems. Okay, now let's jump to questions. Oh, before even jump to questions, Daniel, if you don't mind, put you in this spot, right? You were part of the EAP, right? Do you want to say anything? Share any experience?
Yeah, so we've gone through the page of getting data manager set up for our environment. We've leveraged some of the adapters from Intune, particularly computers, but we've all imported our users as well. We've reached a point where we can import data using API calls. We leverage the Intune importer command line prompt tool, and yeah, we're at quite a good point. We haven't quite yet handed it over to BAU, but we're in the final couple of weeks, and yeah, super excited for the native import tool.
That's pretty cool. Thank you so much. And another question that comes always here is, okay, so how do I bring this data back to my schema? I'm going to just show quickly here. And actually, let me go to my dev environment here quickly, schemas. And I'm going to go to my compute, for example, here, configuration. And then when you have import, you have a create import. And then you see here, data manager import data. So this is not available for you guys. I might develop an instance, but this is basically how it's gonna look like. I can say like test DM, and then create an import. And then as soon as I configure that, it's gonna ask me, okay, let me go to this one here. Actually here. And then it's going to ask me to add a search and then connect to the data manager. The search that I saved before, I can select here. And then whatever data I select there before, like all Windows Server, right? Save my configuration. And then that's the data that's going to go to my schema. We have 5 schemas, compute, software, infrastructure, people, and I think there's one more here. Just go back. And then analysis. Those are my removing user. So compute, network, people, peripherals, and software. All right.
I think I get it.
Questions, guys? Was that too much?
Go on, I'll get you first, just there.
Thanks, Bruce. Justin here. How do you think about ephemeral compute? So if I'm strongly taking advantage of serverless, then I'm not necessarily owning any of the infrastructure. So from an assets data management standpoint, do you go to the effort to try to log some aspect of that within the data manager itself, or do you ignore it?
So let's say that working more with the peripherals, not the compute or assets that you're not responsible for. Okay, what type of scenario is that? Can you give me a little bit more fix?
I guess service is one example where I don't necessarily need to own or even put the infrastructure. And in that scenario, I don't essentially even own it until I need to use it. So, and then when I need to use it, I don't necessarily know physically where it is, or physically where it is, or what it's even called.
Oh, okay.
So, do you think about logging ephemeral resources in any way, or is
Sorry?
that not at all? Do you think about logging ephemeral resources at all from a data management standpoint in the Assets Data Manager?
Yeah, so if you are not responsible for some particular assets and if you don't have the data, I mean, if one of the aspects is use discovery tools to bring that data, right? The other aspect, if you services and you're talking about application, then Compass, but then you can keep in Compass if you don't need that. We recommend you bring in integrating with Compass more and more, and we are going to work more and more to that because then the infrastructure team have visibility. It's always important for the infrastructure team to have visibility what's happening in the application environment. And we do have also scenarios like customers, engineers using schemas and assets for research and development for cars, for something totally different, like parts for automotive, for example, right? So I would say it's always start like this is the tool, but it's always start what do you need and what you want to extract, and then you do the planning. That's the best way to go for.
It's slightly weird to be asking you a question, Justin, but why would you want to track ephemeral resources in a CMDB? Yeah, why? It's the why.
No, I'm asking whether you would ultimately you own a number of these physical assets, or you own ultimately the compute. There's any different kinds of ownership as it relates to that compute. Either you physically own it or you have some contract to use a certain amount of it. But in the ephemeral sense, you either own it or you don't. That's the reason.
I was thinking more along the lines of like Kubernetes pods and clusters that can be spun up and spun down, or lambdas, things you use on demand. But it's the why do you care about who owns them if they're ephemeral? You're thinking of like cost or something like that.
Yeah, cost related.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, cool. Thank you. Interesting.
And sometimes you might have like departments with some spreadsheets, right, to load that data. So it depends. We have all sorts of customers with all sorts of data, believe it or not. Hope that helps. Planning is the number one thing for CMDB.
Another question? Yeah.
How does the import work from the perspective of incremental stuff, right? So let's say you said we can automate and through CLI is understood, or you have to do task scheduler to make sure it runs daily and synchronizes again with whatever you have, right? But let's say I've inputted the first batch of it, and then the next batch, and I cleansed it up and everything. Now the next batch comes in. Is it going to import the whole bloody thing again? Or is it going to know that this part is not going to be touched because it doesn't handle incrementals in any way or fashion?
Very good question. It's going to clean up all the data and then bring the data again. So it's going to wipe the raw data.
So it's going to wipe up whatever you did before. So every time you import, it's going to go fresh.
Well, let's say there is one thing that I want to show you here. Okay, so going back here in this view, at this moment, it's going to clean up your raw table.
Yep.
But here, when you do the cleanse and reconcile, it's not going to clean. Because it's going to consider whatever you have there before. And then for the fields, especially with snapshot, it's going to bring the data. It's going to match the data for the primary key. If there is updates, it's going to update. And if you have a snapshot, that's going to be recorded.
Okay, so it does kind of a matching.
So here is not going to clean, but here, the raw data is going to clean.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So when I do the importer here, that wipes out my raw data table, and when it comes here, no, it's going to wipe.
Good question. There's another one up here.
Sorry, mine's just in terms of kind of costings. Feel free to tell me, not a topic for discussion as well. So this data manager is great. You can bring in all the stuff, normalize it, clean it up, do what we need to do. But we want to sometimes harness that data, say within a ticket, help us with change management and all this good stuff. I'm very much aware that Atlassian's brought in a limit of how many free objects you can bring in. I think it's like 50,000. What happens if you go above that? I know obviously you pay, I guess, per object that will come in. One's if you pay annually, how does that work?
So
and if you buy it through a reseller, through a partner.
Excellent question. So for data manager, we are not having, as I mentioned initially, a limit for data. So it's above 50,000. Because we are still in beta, we are working performance and checking out how is the balance between like the import from multiple instances at the same time, right? So we have some, I would say, limitations in terms of like how much data you're going to bring, etc. We are testing that. That's why it's not even fully GA. But we don't have any limitation around the 50,000. We are going to charge more. So now when it goes to JSM, right, then is when there is the consumption price. But I can say that maybe in a long term, right, we are looking at, we got some feedback regarding to that. So I would say that not in the short term, but long term, we are planning to review the structure, the price structure, and come back to you guys.
Okay, all right. Perfect.
Which is good though.
So yes, we could use it to reduce it down to that supply. We could use the data manager to reduce it to the amount that
You can, yeah. You can even remove like whatever is garbagey, right? I mean, but sometimes for large corporations, large number of assets might go up of 50,000.
Any more questions from the room? I guess.
Will the native import from data manager into asset manager be automatable?
It should be
Automated.
not in the short term.
Perfect.
So we have a ticket. It's a backlog request. And also this job that's running here, a lot of people we have a ticket open, as much as votes we can get, that goes up in the backlog. You know, guys, you guys know how that works, right? More customers want a feature, more votes, let's go up in the backlog.
Amazing.
Thank you. Any more questions in the room? Seems like no. Let me go back to the computer and see if there are any online. And while I do that, I have one of my own. I noticed you had ServiceNow as a connector, essentially. Is there a world where the two tools might live alongside each other, or is that for the migration case? We are migrating from ServiceNow to JSM.
We are not using that for now, but that's in the roadmap. And then I would say that's one of priority things that we want to do about backupping assets, because that's a major question nowadays, right? Outside of data manager, like how do I, backup my assets?
For the backup use case. Yeah. That makes sense. There are loads of questions online, so strap yourselves in.
Yeah, those. That question specifically is something that we are going to probably discuss very soon, I would say.
Interesting. We'll have to have you back when you're ready for that one. Let's see. Here we go. Here's the first one. When would it be possible to populate data in asset via the asset data manager outside of the beta version? In other words, when is it not going to be beta?
Okay, so we are planning Q2, okay? Q2 for 2025. Because, we have our fiscal years, that is, we are now F1 25 Q3. But we are saying Q2 calendar year.
Q2 calendar year, yeah. That's always fun, mapping to reality. Next one, is there a scheduler, in brackets, cron jobs for the data import via the adapter rather than via?
There are. There is two importers. You can go to the Atlassian marketplace. And then data manager. Okay, data manager clients for GSM. There you go.
Okay, makes sense. But the scheduling aspect, to schedule the import of the data, is that only done via command line you were mentioning, using the native Windows or Mac?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool, that's that. Next one. I can answer this one myself. Is it possible to merge data from different sources, essentially?
Yeah. So far, example, if you have vulnerability information from two different sources, can it merge information, show a list without duplicates? Yeah, absolutely. Kind of went through that. That was probably the older question, but we saw that.
We did. That's a nice, easy one to answer. That's good. Let's see.
I like the way that showed the question here.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Let's see. Trying to weed out the people going, it's an interesting question from the actual question, so bear with me. Oh, here we go. So someone said, LinkedIn anonymous user does this sometimes, has asked effectively what other MDM tools, aside from the likes of Intune, you showed Jamf on the list as well.
Oh yeah, I've even mentioned about MDM tools, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This is excellent. It works by Interrogate Active Direct if that is up to date. Well, it's not like asking if that's up to date, but we compare the dates. So everything that's a snapshot, we can do that too. So there is a field, an attribute, and then you can say if that attribute needs to be a snapshot. So you can always go there and show a little bit, go to settings. I didn't go to settings, but here's all your settings, and you have your attributes, and then all the attributes, like let's say I want to see all the attributes for my compute, right? And then search, and then I can go here, edit, and then you see is my primary key important, including snapshot, it's a computed, that's part of the relationship, the normalization or not. So you can configure that. And then on top of that, you have priorities, right, in attributes, and you have also priorities on data source types. Here's how long I'm gonna do the refresh. Like after, when I hit 180 days, it's gonna ask, say, this data is old. And also here is the priority. So like, let's say that I have SCCM, AD, I have all these, how you consider which data.
That makes sense. So something you just showed has triggered a question I have, which is when data is old. So in, let's say you're constantly pulling from like whatever, Intune or something, and you stop seeing a few devices, at what point do you do something like mark those CIs as like redundant or something to that effect? Do they permanently live on in the CMTP?
Well, we can say redundant, like right here, actually, when you go to this reconciliation, like let's say you bring data from Intune, right, one time, and then the second time that you brought data, update some things, right? And then if you're snapshotting like some date or some particular field, that's going to be in your history.
Okay, so you mark the CIs as like deleted or something to that effect?
Yes,
old.
exactly.
Okay, cool, that's good.
So that's going to be in the snapshot.
Makes sense. So you can see the state as was as well then.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool. Next question from online. When import data from Data Manager will be available, is it possible to import external resources on existing object types? If yes, will it be necessary to pair the attributes to accommodate the new data, or will it be something that will be...
Very good question. And this is a very important question. And Daniel, as you also did this, experience that, right? When you import using the current importer, okay, it's just to bring the data and import in a schema. There's nothing special about that. But when you use the data manager native importer that we are looking for, that's going to also match the data. What I do have here, what I do have in data manager, and then it's going to basically update what I have. Actually, it's already doing that. There's updates, but also let's say if you change your structure, because also like you have the classes, right? And the classes are brought up if you use the data importer native. So if you use just importer, you're not going to have that. So this is going to be available. It's going to be more automatically, but with the data manager importer, native importer. And the data manager native importer is going to be available Q2.
So that was the next
that's
question.
The plan.
Which you just
okay,
answered.
That's the plan.
When is it available, Q2?
I'm going to say the plan doesn't mean like, yes, we are going to deliver.
I'm in product, I understand.
Yeah, there's like, you know, there is all these disclaimers here underneath me.
Makes total sense. The final question from online is essentially, is there a roadmap for Asset Data Manager?
Okay, we are publishing something probably end of this month, okay? Because we have some tickets that are available even to everyone. Atlasa is no BS, right? You guys know our culture, like no BS the customer, etc., right? And the most important piece is be transparent. So we are going to be publishing probably in the next version of the roadmap company-wide. You're going to see some things about Data Manager. And then whoever was in the team 25 last year in Europe also saw, probably, I'm not sure if that's published publicly, but there was also the roadmap, and major details about the roadmap is always on those events. So make sure that you attend those events, or even we are going to go to some tours in some cities, right, moving forward. I think that we have another one coming in London very soon. right?
There's high velocity soon in
Yes.
London, which is the ITSM. I can't remember when it is, but
Yes,
soon.
I think probably a month
March.
from now. End of,
March.
yeah,
I want to say March. I'm going to go
Yeah.
with March.
exactly. So we are coming to London again with a large number of people, and then we can talk a little bit more about roadmap. Okay.
Thank you. There are no other questions from online. Are there any other questions from the room? In which case, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, everyone, also online.
So, there are a few things to do before pizza. So, gift cards are one of the things.
Okay, so
So I think you have 3 to give away. Is that right?
yes, I have it 3, and it's your decision to
It's
go
my
to
decision.
whoever go,
Oh.
because I know like there is this 2 people here that was very close. Maybe we can do 2 here and 1 online. I don't
Sounds
know.
good to me. Sounds good to me. Online, I'll decide afterwards because I'll have to scroll through and have a look at all the questions online. But I would like to give 1 gift card to Justin because your question was very good around ephemeral objects. I hadn't even considered that as a use case. And to, what was your name there for your question? Say again? Marco, thank you for your question around, oh, it's gone, go brain, go, for your question from earlier, rather than me remember. Thank you, that's it, perfect. So all that's really left to do is to say thank you for coming. This is our LinkedIn page. Please do give us a follow because you are the first to hear about things like this, which is our next event. This is essentially our next event on the 6th of February, where we have 2 speakers from Atlassian and a local speaker in the form of Jack, where we're going to talk about a couple of things, marketing and both Jira and Confluence, which is really interesting. Speaking for myself, I've tried to get one marketing team to use Jira and Confluence, and it went okay until I took my eyes off it, and then they lost interest entirely. So I'm really interested to hear how Atlassian do this themselves. So we've got Caitlin, Abby, and Jack talking. We're back here, both in person and, of course, online as well. So scan the QR code if you're interested. It's all online. And that's everything. So thank you very much. And it's time for pizza if you're in person, and if you're online, thanks for being here. Thank you. Pizza time.
Thank you, thank you. Now I'm gonna check if the pizza is as good as Brazil. Yeah, okay. There's a lot of talk.
I did it to my LinkedIn, please add
Oh,
me.
yes, absolutely.